When has an animal ever taken revenge on someone who mistreated you? I was the only night keeper at our aquarium who could handle Poseidon, our $4 million giant Pacific octopus. And that evening he wrapped all 8 arms around my forearm to gently pull crab from my feeding tongs. His massive 200-pound body moved with surprising grace through the crystal clear water of his tank. But when any other keeper approached, the same gentle creature became a destructive nightmare that sprayed black ink everywhere and destroyed thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Our new operations director Caroline watched from the observation deck with her arms crossed, clearly unimpressed by what she called my animal dependency problem during yesterday's staff meeting. She believed every creature should have multiple handlers because no single employee should be irreplaceable, especially not because of some oversized sea creature that cost more than most people's houses. Caroline had spent 3 weeks documenting every minor violation she could manufacture, writing me up for wearing a different brand of reef-safe sunscreen than the one corporate required, even though their brand gave me hives and docking my pay when Poseidon's complex feeding routine ran 5 minutes over my scheduled break. Her masterpiece was hiring Tim, her former assistant manager who spent entire shifts taking Instagram selfies near the shark tank and had never worked with cephalopods in his 24 years of existence. Poseidon hated Tim with the burning intensity of 1,000 suns, shooting pressurized water jets that soaked him completely whenever he approached the tank. And once Tim slipped so dramatically on the wet observation deck that he crashed through a $3,000 interactive display about octopus intelligence. Tim's solution was to stand 15 feet away from the tank and throw food pellets like he was feeding pigeons at the park, which made Poseidon retreat to his cave and refuse to eat for 2 entire days. Then disaster struck on a Wednesday evening when major marine research donors were arriving for a private feeding demonstration at 8:30, specifically requesting to see our famous octopus interact with his primary caregiver. 20 minutes before the VIP tour, Caroline cornered me in the equipment room while I prepared Poseidon's dinner of fresh Dungeness crab and puzzle feeders. Tim will handle tonight's demonstration, she announced with fake authority dripping from every word. You're needed in the children's touch tank area for deep cleaning duties. Everyone in that equipment room knew exactly what would happen if Tim approached Poseidon during feeding time when the octopus was most territorial and aggressive, but I looked Caroline directly in the eyes and explained the obvious anyway. Poseidon won't accept food from Tim, and he becomes violent when strangers approach during his dinner routine. Caroline snapped back that we'd manage without the feeding demonstration, and gave me a direct order to report to the children's area immediately or face consequences. I slowly unclipped my security badge and identification card, placing both items on the stainless steel prep counter while our senior aquarist and 2 night staff members watched this confrontation unfold in stunned silence. I pulled out my phone to start recording and told Caroline that Poseidon was in full hunting mode because it was feeding time, and Tim knew where all the equipment was stored. Caroline's face turned bright red when she realized I was documenting our conversation for legal purposes. If you walk out of this building, you're terminated immediately and permanently. I replied calmly that this was perfectly fine with me, already hearing Poseidon's agitated splashing echoing from the deep sea exhibit 2 rooms away. I'm recording this for unemployment documentation since you're firing me for refusing to endanger a $4 million animal and potentially injure your completely inexperienced employee. I walked out of the building and barely made it to the parking lot before my phone started buzzing with frantic calls and text messages. 12 missed calls came in during the first 4 minutes, starting with panicked messages from our senior aquarist describing how Poseidon had grabbed Tim's entire arm through the feeding slot and refused to let go no matter how much Tim screamed and thrashed around. The second wave of texts described black ink clouds so thick that the VIP donors couldn't see anything through the glass walls, while Tim begged for help as Poseidon held him at the observation platform. The final message came directly from our facility director, practically begging me to return immediately because the donors were threatening to pull their $500,000 annual funding after witnessing what they described as a dangerous and completely unprofessional animal care disaster that could have resulted in serious injury or death. I sat in my car for exactly 10 minutes and watched through the lobby windows as staff members ran frantically between the emergency supply closet and the deep sea exhibit. Then I calmly walked back inside to find Poseidon had completely destroyed his enrichment setup and covered 3 walls of his tank with defensive ink. Within 2 minutes of hearing my voice and sensing my presence, Poseidon released Tim's thoroughly bruised and swollen arm, settled peacefully onto his favorite rock formation, and began accepting food normally, while the donors watched in complete amazement at the immediate transformation. Caroline was quietly reassigned to our sister facility by Friday morning, with official statements citing her inability to maintain proper animal welfare protocols during critical donor relations events.